So I remember that weekend really, really well. It was the summer of 2005 and I was in the middle of my divorce. Um, it all still felt fairly new and was very much in process, and I decided to take a weekend for myself to grieve the end of my marriage, to grieve that completion, to grieve the whole process, the whole loss. And it was a remarkable thing to do, because I think that in our society we don't take time for our difficult emotions. We just carry on. We want to either sweep them under the rug. We hope they're going to go away on their own if we just busily carry on in life. But of course it doesn't work like that. And one thing I've learned from working with many people in relationship is that if you don't take the time to grieve the loss of a relationship, you take that grief with you. And it's like it sort of gets clogged up. The heart gets clogged up. So you then, when you go into your next relationship, you're not taking an open heart with you. There's no open space. You're taking a clogged up heart with you. And that's really damaging, because it doesn't allow you to be fully emotionally available for intimate relationship. But I took the time to grieve. And specifically I went away for a weekend, and I remember it very, very clearly, because my attention was so fully present to everything I was feeling. I went away, I went to the English countryside, and I stayed at this lovely bed and breakfast above an organic pub that was attached to an organic farm, and it was in the middle of the countryside, and the sun was shining, and I remember sitting by the canal and watching these little ducklings go by, watching people walk past, watching life go by, and being very still with the grief. So my shape of stillness that weekend was sadness and grief. And I think that we often think of stillness and meditation as being separate to life, but it shouldn't be separate to life. The truth is that we can find our shape of stillness in any emotion, and particularly those big emotions around the endings of relationships. It's very important to find the stillness in all of that. So I remember that weekend like it was in HD. There was a lot of appreciation, actually, a lot of appreciation for the marriage and for everything that I'd experienced. There was also a lot of grief. There was intense anticipation about what was coming next, and enormous sense of loss. But most of all, there was just a sense of being very alive to life. I think when the heart is broken open, we do become very alive and very available to everything that is going on in the present moment. The other thing I remember about that weekend was that it was my housemates who encouraged me to go. So I was sort of thinking about it, I was talking about it, but I wasn't sure, partly because I was having to be very careful with money at that time. I was newly on my own, and so I was being really careful, and I think making the commitment to go away for that weekend felt really big. Also, it felt scary. It felt daunting to put time aside for grief. And it was my housemates who said, yeah, go for it. You know, very casually, they just encouraged me to go for it. And that was very helpful. And I think that's a really important piece, because when it comes to divorce, our close friends and family often are not the best people to give us advice and to be helpful, because they are invested in our pain. They've got their own opinions about whether or not we should be getting a divorce. They've got their own pain and their own grief going on. So people who know you more casually, who are not so invested in your own life, are often the best people to give you advice at that kind of time. One of the things I also remember very clearly was that I was starting to explore working with my body as a meditative tool at this time. And I remember on one of the days, I think it was a Sunday, I was walking in these bluebell woods, and I was on a path. It was quite a large, quite a wide path. I was walking along, being very present with the grief. And I noticed that I was on my own. There wasn't someone next to me anymore. I was walking solo. So on this very wide path, I deliberately stepped right into the center of the path to own the whole path for myself and to honor the fact that I was walking solo. So I literally walked forward into this new solo future and fully owned it. And that is very powerful. Being able to be present with the body in that way and use the body as a meditation tool is something that I really recommend. And I've put a link to a meditation underneath this video to help you with that. Literally walking into my future was incredibly powerful. I think when we use the mind for meditation, so mindfulness has become very popular, but when we use the body, it's even more effective, because by using the body, we bring the whole self into play. Body, mind, emotion, all of it is present in the body. And so I remember that moment in these beautiful bluebell woods of literally walking into my future. It was very clearing for my heart, very beautiful, very intense, but also very easy and relaxed at the same time. Literally putting one foot in front of the other and then the next, and taking the next step and then the next. It was easy and gentle and profound and powerful all at the same time.